the volume accumulation that happened from these subsequent sets that Jay did, it was like 3-4 working sets per exercise, whatever it was. He was benching like 405 for sets of 8-10 reps for like
with
3
short breaks.
Sets. None of the sets were anywhere near close to failure. There is a method and there is a way that you can still be in the gym very often and very frequent. You have to be in control of your ability to stop the reps quite far away from failure. And the only way to do that, Scott, is actually having an understanding of what true training to failure is.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Think Big Bodybuilding Media. I'm Scott McNally, and back again with me is Kuba Cielen. Guys, if you are new here and you haven't subscribed, we'd love to have you along for everything we do. So be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, ring the bell, all that stuff, and comment with questions for the next episode. Kuba, what's going on, man?
I am fantastic, my friend. How are you?
Doing really good. So last I talked to you, you're like, I'm not going to the Olympia. And I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going either. But I think you showed up to the Olympia, didn't you?
I did not, but I did not.
You didn't, but Meg was there.
Meg was there, so I was there in spirit.
I heard rumors. I was like, I think Kuba's here. And I was like, really? I didn't think Kuba was going. I ended up going, man.
Mate, if I was there, I would have seen you. I would have texted you.
It was a busy weekend, dude. It was crazy. So anyway, man.
I'm coming over to see you. Where are you? Send location.
What's going on, man?
I'm great, man. I'm great. Living the dream. Off-season's underway. Things are developing. Cycle escalation's in play. Blood work is back and it's looking absolutely tremendous.
Nice.
So I'm happy, but I'm not content. Nowhere near. I'm just
good.
Very, very emotionally driven and emotionally fueled from this year. And the biggest thing with bodybuilding is, right, if you don't get something right, it's not something you can rectify in a matter of weeks, right? It's 14-month wait. For me it is anyway. So it's like right now, Scott, I am potentially, and again, this is potentially 51 weeks and 4 days out, right?
Okay.
So if you don't get it right in bodybuilding, you are waiting 51 weeks to rectify it.
Yeah.
So it's not like any other sport, and we are actually going to talk about this a little bit later in the podcast. But patience, I think patience is something that most people need to really, really learn, because I think patience is very much a skill. It's not just a personality trait. It's not just something that you develop just like this, right? I think it takes practice. And patience is something I have very much developed as of recent and in the recent years. And it's been the biggest factor in my ability to progress and learn more as an athlete, as a coach. So patience, my friend. I'm great, man. I'm getting stuck into coaching, stuck into my training. I'm loving every bit of part of the process right now. I've been having quite a lot of consults as well.
Nice.
Just wanting to learn more about blood work, etc. as well.
Okay.
And off the top of that as well, do you find this, that a lot of coaches in particular, they want to be jacks of all trades but masters of none?
Yeah.
And I feel like
I try to draw lines in certain places where I'll tell people like, hey, I can help you with posing, if we're doing a show, but I am not a posing expert, and I would defer to somebody who was like Kenny Wallach, somebody who's like specifically that's what he does.
Well, I'm not just talking about that, but I think a lot of coaches without sufficient knowledge and without being qualified enough are trying to be experts when it comes to blood work and trying to be experts when it comes to even gut health. And it's like, I'll read some stuff that some people diagnose people with when they're not qualified to diagnose them, right?
All the time, man.
And I'm like, this is just ridiculous. Like, and it's just generic. It almost looks like it probably was ran through ChatGPT, because the kind of, when ChatGPT gives a reply, that's what it looked like anyway. And I was like, I read it and I was like, this person doesn't really know how to read a bodybuilder's blood work. So one thing to understand for all of you listeners right now, right? If there's something specific you want to delve deeper into when it comes to blood work, when it comes to anything in general, you have to actually seek out help from a professional for someone who is actually qualified. Now, the people that I consult with is Dr. Dean and Dr. Dwayne Jackson.
Okay.
When I have specific cases with athletes, or if I have athletes that have major concerns with any of the blood work, although I know it's not a concern, but if they do have concerns, I will reach out or I will ask questions to people who are qualified to give an actual answer. And if someone has actually done just a normal basic nutrition course, which I've done a nutrition course with Dr. Dwayne, so I am pretty versed in nutrition, pretty versed in gut health, but I'm not an actual expert. I'm not a doctor. I'm not Dr. Dwayne. He's an expert. So
I appreciate you saying that, man, because I do feel like a lot of times somebody takes a course and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, now I do the same thing he does.
Mate, I've taken many courses, right? And I had a lot of consults with these people. And I will never claim to be at their level. The only reason why I do it is just so I am a better athlete and a better coach.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something that's missing in the industry. I think a lot of people, they will learn small little bits from actual professionals, right? They will regurgitate what they say without actually understanding things on a deeper level. And then people buy into it. But the fact of the matter is, they don't really know what they are talking about. So just tread carefully, people, because I think it's very easy for people to get bamboozled by big words.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's when a lot of people tend to get burnt. So just remember, guys, we as coaches, we are coaches. We're not doctors. We can give you advice, but any sensible coach would always stay in their own lane. And this is something that Scott mentioned, right? We stick to what we are good at, and anything that I don't know, guess what? If I don't know something, I will reach out to someone that is way smarter than me, and I will find out. And it's as simple as that. And I'm very, very lucky to have a lot of people around me that are a lot smarter than me, especially when it comes to specific knowledge that is either blood work or anything that's, on a deeper physiological level that needs addressing. And I can get that knowledge from them. So just remember, guys.
Yep, I'm with you on that 100%, man. So listen, what do we want to jump into here? I know we had like a whole list of stuff. Kuba sent me like a ton of bullet points. He comes up with, we hadn't talked for a few days and all of a sudden, boom, I know he's got a podcast idea. I see the first thing on your list is hard trainers who approach volume and frequency, or how to approach volume and frequency if they want to go hard. What do you mean by that?
So what I mean by that is a lot of people, especially at Think Big community, they will pride themselves on training extremely hard. And that's amazing, right? And I know a lot of you enjoy drop sets, enjoy forced reps, or enjoy even just simply taking reps past failure. Whatever method you use, I don't care. You train super hard and you like to punish yourself, right? You have to be strategic with how you approach your training volume and your training frequency if that is what you want to do. So what I mean by that is, if you are someone that likes to train extremely hard, you can still make progress. But guess what? It's not going to happen if you are doing 3 sets per exercise and you have 15 sets within your training session. If you are that type of person, first thing you've got to consider, how many overall sets do you have in your workout per session? How are you splitting up your body parts? So essentially, the harder you actually train, the less direct sets you will be able to recover from at one given time in one single session.
Yeah.
So if you are someone that likes to go extremely hard, you like rest pause sets, you like drop sets, I would very much recommend you only doing 1 working set per exercise with the intensifier of your choice. And this might only mean that you are doing 6-7 working sets per session. But guess what? The damage that you will cause training as hard as you are clearly training is going to be huge. So you adding additional sets may not be productive, and it may not give you the opportunity to recover in time for either your following session or the next session that you have when you come in the gym and you try to progress, and guess what? You don't have the energy, or you've got connective tissue pain, or you are simply just under-recovered. The main, most important objective is making sure that you can do what you can recover from. You can only do what you can recover from. Anything above and beyond that, I wouldn't say it's wasted volume, it's wasted junk, but there is only so much volume you can handle. And a very big misunderstanding people have is your training volume isn't just your sets. Your training volume is your proximity to failure. Your training volume will increase the harder you train. And if you have all of these intensifiers in place and you are training past failure, your actual direct, or shall we say indirect training volume increases exponentially, which means you may not be able to do supplements and sets within your session. You may have to scale back the volume and then start with the bare minimum and then see where that takes you. And guess what? If you are able to then come back in the gym and you can take progression and you feel fresh, you're not sore, maybe add an additional set and take it from there. Now, another variable to consider is your training frequency. How frequently are you training? Are you training 5-6 days per week? If you are training 5-6 days per week, again, guess what? Your training volume, number of sets, will need to decrease because of the overall workload that you have. Your training split. Your training split also comes into play. If you are just using a bro split, you can probably handle more work within that session because you're not hitting that body part again for 7 days. But if your frequency is higher, which it should be, if it's not, you're missing out, then the likelihood of you handling more volume is going to be very, very slim. So you've just got to tread a very fine line. And when it comes to training recovery considerations as well, the older you get, the less recoverability you have. The stronger you get, the less recoverability you have. More accurate you get within your training, guess what? You won't be able to tolerate the same amount of volume. And the best example I can give you is this. When someone first goes into the gym, right, they can go and do 10 sets of squats and 10 sets of bench in one session, and they can come back in the gym next day and repeat that because they are so weak that they will not cause much damage, if any. So they don't really need that much to recover.
They'll make progress.
They will make progress.
They'll make progress. I'm back there now, Kuba, getting back into training this year. I can do so much more volume than I used to. I can, and I don't do a lot of volume per workout, but I will repeat the workouts a lot sooner than I would have been able to. I can, if I want to, I can train arms like almost 3 times a week. That's like, it's not a problem.
To be honest, I think what you could probably do if you're just getting back into it, you could probably do full body 3 times per week and you'd still be able to.
That's where I started, actually. Yeah, that's where I started. And then I went to an upper lower and now I have a split that I enjoy doing with a little bit of arm priority. I'm trying to bring the arms up a little bit. It's always been something that was never like a real strong one for me. Well, and it's working great, man. I'm loving what I'm doing. And if none of it is overtaxing me. If
you want to bring your arms up and everything else still needs to grow, what you could do is upper, start with tricep. So what you could do, day one, you could start with a tricep extension, then follow that with a dip, right? Then you could do, so 2 sets, tricep extension, 1 set of dip. Then you follow that up with 2 sets of a single arm pull down, 2 sets of a chest press. Then you follow that up with 3 sets of row, and then you finish on a cable fly, right? That's your upper session finished, done. And if you want,
I can see that.
You could finish on 3 sets of laterals as well. If your shoulders are not priority, put them back, right? Then your lower body day, start with 4 sets of bicep. 2 working sets of something that's going to overload the shortened range. So either like a cable preacher curl or even high cable curl. And then move on to something like that's going to overload the stretch position, right? So behind the back cable lateral, anything that's going to be heavy in the stretch. And then you do your lower body day. So this way, you are starting with your arms and you're actually training your arms pretty much every single session. So if you're priority your arms, you could still do an upper lower split, but essentially you've got an arm day to begin with, And the frequency for your arms then, if you train 2 days on, 1 day off, you are training 3 to almost 4 days per week.
Yeah.
That could be huge for you, especially right now. Like the progress that you could make right now off the back of that could be ridiculous. And I think everything else would grow as well at the same time.
Yeah, I'm happy with what I'm doing, which is just real simple, just chest, shoulders.
I'm just giving suggestions, mate. Come on.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And I wanted to hear you out because I wanted the audience to hear it too, because we're not just talking for the sake of us. I'm thinking somebody at home might take away from that. You know what I mean? And I could see somebody applying that. Yep. I've got just to make it brief, I'm doing a chest, shoulders, tries, then a back and buys, and then a legs, and then in arms. And then when I feel ready, I'll repeat the whole thing again. And it's really simple, man. And sometimes I do everything I'm doing. It's very much based off of like, what do I feel I can handle that given day? None of it's really to failure either, which is crazy to see myself making progress. So
amazing. I love that, to be honest. I love that. Yeah,
I'm happy with it, man.
I like it.
I'm happy with it.
I like it a lot.
Yeah. So looking at your list here too, we had a couple other things written down. How to approach training for guys who want to train with higher volume and like being in the gym. Yes, I think that's when we run up to a lot, man. I have some guys, and you've probably heard it too. They're like, I can't get with this. I can't imagine only training 3 times, per week, for instance, where other guys, man, that's like, they're right on board and they're going to destroy it,
Yeah. I mean, look, if you like to train hard, you can still train high frequency. So let's just give two options, right? Guys that train really, really hard, but want to train frequently. If you train really, really hard, but want to train frequently, again, your volume will need to be very, very low. So what my suggestion would be is if you want to train 6 days per week, I would quite literally pick 2 body parts per day. Again, so it could be chest and back. Then the next day could be arms and legs. The next day could be, again, shoulders, arms, again, if you want to do that. It could be whatever, right? But you're pairing up 2 body parts every single session and you run a 6-day rotation, okay? Yeah. Or however you want to split it. The option for you, if you train really hard, is doing between 8 to 10 working sets per that session. So let's say if you are doing a push session, but you want to do high frequency, I would quite literally do 2 to 3 working sets per body part. So it would literally be 3 working sets for shoulders, 3 working sets for chest, 3 working sets for tricep. Done.
That way you can come back again and do it sooner, you're saying. Absolutely. We can keep that multiple times, 6 times training per week.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can literally do every single day if you want to do that. What I have found personally is the fatigue that accumulates from training is mostly down to the training volume. It's not necessarily the frequency itself. And what I actually found is doing less per session for me is much less fatiguing than doing more work per session. So what I actually prefer is higher frequency, but less volume per session, spreading that volume across more sessions.
Yeah.
I think that's so much more effective because I quite literally feel like I can walk in the gym every single session and train fucking hard. And my need to take deloads has also decreased. Like, I don't really need to take deloads nowhere near as frequently as I did before. Like, before push sessions was like 16, 17, 18 sets, I needed to take a deload every 5 weeks. Right now, I can probably go 8, 9 weeks without taking an additional day off. If I can have the self-control to not take any sets past failure or take any reps where my execution breaks down. The second I start doing that, give it a week and I need a deload. Yeah. So that is the option for guys who like to train hard and want higher frequency. You can do 2 to 3 body parts per day and you can train 6 days per week, but only do 3 working sets per body part. That is it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I like the sounds of that, man. I like the sounds of that. We do have people listening to the show right now that I know are going to want to be in the gym 6 times a week, or they're just not telling us they already are training 6, 7 times per week.
Absolutely. And if you want some framework to build out, anybody that wants us to review or wants us to build out the framework for them, comment below, and we're more than happy to do that in the next podcast. And we're more than happy to kind of build out someone a framework that they could actually follow. And I think a lot of people learn from that a lot. I mean, and we've done something similar before. We're assessing physiques and kind of breaking down the training plans for them. But we could definitely build out a framework for this. And I mean, there's no rules to it. You could do on a Monday, you could do back and shoulders, or back, shoulders, tricep. There's no rules to pairing up your body parts, especially with high frequency. So it's like Monday could be back and shoulders. Tuesday could be legs. The following day could be chest and arms. The following day after that could literally just be back and shoulders again. So that's your following days, right? And if you're only doing 3 working sets per body part, you're doing 3 to 4 working sets. You're doing 6 to 8 working sets per session. That gives you the ability to not only go in and train super fucking hard, but also have the recoverability to be able to be in the gym more frequently. Now, guys, if you like to train with higher volume, you can still train frequently, but unfortunately, you are not going to be able to train to failure. And the biggest and the best, quite literally, the biggest and the best example I can give you of one of the largest human beings that trained with both high volume and high frequency was Jay Cutler.
I knew you were going to say Jay, or at least I thought you were going to. Yeah,
absolutely. And when you look at Jay Cutler train, and this is what annoys me with a lot of people as well, is they often thought that Jay trained for a pump. And to a degree, I can understand why they think that, because Jay loves a pump, but the pump was a byproduct of Jay's effort and volume accumulation. Jay's training method is accumulating volume across the session, which is still an effective way to grow muscle if you have very high recoverability. You have to be able to, 1, eat enough, but recover enough to be able to tolerate that much volume.
Yeah.
Another thing to understand is Jay was probably 3 to 4 reps away from real failure every set. When you looked at the speed of the bar on his last few repetitions, it was still very easy. And what you have to understand as well is the volume accumulation that happened from these subsequent sets that Jay did. It was like 3-4 working sets per exercise, whatever it was. He was benching like 405 for sets of 8-10 reps for like
with short breaks.
With short breaks. But none of the sets were anywhere near close to failure. They were still very, very, very easy sets. So there is a method and there is a way that you can still be in the gym very often and very frequent, but you have to be in control of your ability to stop the reps quite far away from failure. And the only way to do that, Scott, is actually having an understanding of what true training to failure is. Because if you do not know how to train to failure, you won't really know when to stop these reps short. And I can promise you, Jay knew how to train to failure. He was so in tune with his training, and he had so much internal focus and understanding of where he was in space with the training and how he felt. He was just so accurate with stopping these reps at a perfect point to allow him to have that volume accumulation per session. And that's what's allowed him to train every single day, or 2 days on, 1 day off with double sessions. If you train to failure, there's no way he'll be able to do that.
Yeah, and he ate a lot too, which was something else you mentioned, was the nutrition to support it. I think of Jay, and I think of a guy who was like really pushing the carbs.
Yeah, I mean, and this brings us to our next point, which is how to match your nutrition with your training style. If you are a very high volume guy, you will require high amounts of fuel. So you will require high amounts of carbohydrates to fuel them sessions. But you also have to understand, if you are not insulin sensitive, if you are fat, essentially, I'm going to say it bluntly, if you are fat and your nutrition position is poor, then carbs are not really going to do much for you, and training with high volume is probably not going to do much for you. However, when you look at Jay was never out of shape. Don't get me wrong, there was times where Jay held a lot of water, but Scott, you can agree with me. There's a big difference between someone holding body fat and holding water.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he never got like sloppy. You know, at a certain point, at least when we've seen him, you know,
I mean, listen,
like his Mr. Olympia years and the Arnold years.
When you have striated quads and your glutes are not fat and your lower back isn't hanging over your pants, but you have a puffy face, we know that isn't body fat. That is just cycle related.
Yeah.
So, fact of the matter is, guys, Jay never got fat. When you are fairly lean, your insulin sensitivity will always be high. So, and another thing that I really loved about Jay as well, and I have watched his take on nutrition, he always had high carbohydrates on his training days and very low carbs or moderate carbs on his rest days. So it's not necessarily carb cycling, it's more so eating to your needs. Training day requires more fuel. Rest days requires less fuel, especially if you are someone who trains with very high volume. That workout will require so much more energy. It will require a lot of calories and a lot of carbohydrates. So when you watch one of the Chase videos on his nutrition, he actually said on his training days, he was having like 1,000 grams of carbs. And on his rest days, it was down to like 300 grams of carbs with more protein and a little bit more fats, which simply makes sense when it comes to eating to match your training style, but also eating to your actual needs. So you've got to understand, guys, recovery has to be on point. Your nutrition has to be on point. And then both of these things have to work in line with your training that you are trying to pick. Now, another mistake that I see people make is trying to match the training styles. You've got to pick one or the other. If you try and mishmash high volume of high intensity, it's just it's not gonna work. It's just too much. So guys, please pick one or the other and see which you like best. And I promise you, there is no right way or wrong, right? The most important thing is that you are able to make progress. If you are not making progress, something needs fixing. So you've got to pay attention to that. And whether you're tracking your lifts or not, I think it can be very helpful. But if you're not tracking your lifts, are you getting bigger? Are your pictures reflecting your progress? Are you seeing your ability to train with more load or more reps increase in the gym? Are all these things happening or not? You've got to pay attention to these variables across the board.
And that answers your next question was how do you know if you're doing too much or too little?
Great question.
I feel like a lot of that is getting into it. Number one, you're not progressing, right? If you've got too, because I think that's the number one thing is that if my volume or it gets too high or my frequency gets too high, then I see that I'm no longer progressing and I'm no longer making the progress. I also start noticing that, you know, I don't enjoy training as much. When I get to that point where it's not working right, there's something about it, Kuba, and that's kind of one of the intuitive things. Like, I know my training's real good right now because I love doing it. It's like I'm in a point where it's like it's working really well. I look forward to the workouts, you know, and when I've been at the opposite point at times where it's like I'm not into it as much, and I think that we should listen to ourselves in that respect.
I think that the main times I always feel like I'm not into it is at the times where I am not able to step forward and I am not actually actively seeing progress in my logbook or with my physique.
Okay.
That's literally the worst time in the world. I cannot stand points like this, and I am now at a point where I protect it at all costs. Like, there will not be a time where I am not able to make progress in one way or another. Because if I'm not making progress in one way or another, I know I need to fix something, and then I review my setup, I work out what it is. Is it nutrition? Is it training volume? Is it I need a deload? Is it my training frequency? Once you review all these things, you understand then what's happening. But one question I want to ask you is this, and this is more so talking about how people can recognize if they are doing too much or not enough, is tracking your lifts is important for this part, because again, if you're moving forwards and your logbook is progressing, you're on track. You know, you're doing the right thing. You're doing the right job. If you are not making progress, your lifts, you're not getting stronger, your lifts are not progressing, or you feel like you're constantly under-recovered, your energy is low, you're probably doing too much. But another thing I want to ask you is this. When you come away from your sessions, how do you feel? How do you feel? How do you feel when you come away from your sessions? Give me a minute.
Right now, I feel good. You know, I feel invigorated. I love the rest of my day.
Yeah.
Kuba, there have been times that I walked away from my workout feeling like I just got out of a car wreck. And I thought I was doing the right thing, man. I thought I was like, I really got it that day, Kuba. I really nailed it, man. I feel like I've got the flu. I feel like I got hit by a car, you know?
Guys, if you're walking away from a session feeling flat, feeling flat, feeling empty, feeling sluggish, feeling like you've got massive brain fog, you're doing too much. You should never, ever walk away from a resistance training session feeling completely flat and like, do you know when your muscles like not even sore, it's just like empty and just like flaccid, right?
Yeah.
That is when you are doing too much. So the easiest way to recognize you've done too much volume is you come out of the gym flat and looking like a pancake. That is when you know you've done too much. And I'll be honest, Scott, feeling like was my gauge of a successful session for many, many, many years.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah.
However, when I scaled back on this, that is when I understood, wow, the progress is like crazy. And this is why, like, what is it? 12 years into my bodybuilding, competitive bodybuilding. In the past 2 years, I've made more progress than I have in my entire career. Because of having an understanding of what I can do and what I cannot do. And generally,
that's huge.
And generally, it's not my body that's going to, it's not my mind that's going to give in first. It's always my body. Now, whenever I finish every single session, and this is so hard for me to grasp because I still have that mindset where I just want to go until I'm crushed.
Yeah.
When I finish my sessions, and it's actually something I noticed last night again, and it happens every week. I was looking at a hack squat, and I've just done 2 working sets on the hack, progressed both sets, more load, better execution on the heaviest hack squat in the world. It's smooth, but it's like heavy. Like I had a pro bodybuilder over for like camp over at my gym, and he trained with he's trained with his pro show called Patrick from Germany. He's been training with me the last 3 weeks. The first session we did this hack squat, right? He put 4 plates on it, and I was like, "Here we fucking go." And he normally does like 6 plates on the Cybex hack. He put 4 plates in the hack squat, and I was like, "Mate, don't, please don't," because 4 plates on this hack feels like 6, 7 on the Cybex. Anyway, I did both of the sets. I came away from both of these sets, and I was like, I could do another. And I almost did, Scott. But I reminded myself, right, today's Tuesday. Your legs are going to be fucking wrecked tomorrow because you progressed every lift today. And it was, and that's another thing to touch on as well. I progressed my hack squat by 5 kilo. So 2.5 kilo plates on each side, no more. And I matched the reps from last week on both first set and second set. That's a huge progression on how heavy that hack squat is, especially with execution. Because I did control the end range just a little bit more as well this week, which is something I want to work on and something I actually noted in my logbook that I needed to do.
And that in itself is progression. You know, even if you didn't even add an additional rep, add additional weight, that more control is doing it. It's a novel stimulus more than you had done before.
Absolutely. So I thought to myself, right, I could do it, but I'm training legs again on Saturday. If I did that working set, if I did that additional set, guess what? the Saturday session would have been a complete disaster. I would have definitely seen regression. But in the years prior, I kid you not, Scott, I would do that extra set every single time.
Yeah. We kind of have to go through that, you know. I feel like if you're not smart like me, you might have done it for too many years in a row. You know, I should have, but it wasn't a topic like it is today. You know, it was a badge of honor to destroy yourself like that and do it again and do it again. I think of a lot of workouts. I probably could have grown a lot faster had I backed off. But in bodybuilding, we want to do that. Like, we want to know that we crossed the line versus could I have gotten a little bit more? You know, we walk away. I think people feel guilty too, man. You walk away from that third set, Kuba, and there's part in your head where you're like, man, I really, you know, maybe I should have done that.
I think a lot of it comes down to maturity as well, because when you're mature in the process, you understand that there's nothing worse for me than coming in the gym and not seeing progress. And seeing progress fires me up. It drives me. This is why I wanted to do that another set, because it felt so fucking good. But then I reminded myself, hold on a minute. Why did it feel so good? Why was I able to take the progression? It's because I am doing what I can recover from, and I am doing what's necessary to progress, not what I can do. I'm doing what I have to do. Because if I was to do what I can do, it would be a lot more work than I'm doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah. You need 5 more days to recover from it too.
Yeah. And listen, this is ultimately what comes down to is just patience. Patience with progression. Patience with your training. Patience with your training volume. Patience with the food. Eating only what you need to eat to see progress. People fall into the trap of thinking that they can eat muscle on. You cannot eat muscle on. You cannot force muscle on through just doing extra sets. You cannot force muscle on through taking extra gear. It's a process that takes time, patience, and day-to-day discipline. The more you understand that and the more you lean into that patience and focusing on day-to-day, the more progress you will make, I promise you.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Just a quick shout out to True Nutrition. I figured I'd bring you to the home gym here, so welcome. And I just wanted to show you my order. So nothing big deal. I've got a few pounds of the cold filtered whey iso. I'm a big fan of the cookie butter flavor. I've been on this year. This has like been my favorite, but they've got a bunch of different flavors. So if you're interested in something else, just check them out. It's a very light protein overall. It's not going to bloat your digestion down. It's not going to cause a bunch of water retention. This is the kind of protein that I suggest to people who are doing a contest prep. They've got all your basic bodybuilding supplements like creatine. They've got great intra-workout, highly branched cyclic dextrin, which is the high end. And then they've got the cheaper stuff like carbo load, like anybody can afford that. And of course, use our code THINK. It'll get you 10% off. They really kicked up. It used to only be 5%. Now you get 10% off if you use the code. And it throws some money our way too. So it definitely helps the podcast out a ton. Might be a buck here and there, but you know, if you guys all use the code, it definitely adds up. And you have been using the code, so thank you for that. Let's get back to the podcast, but thank you for hanging out with me here in the home gym.
Hey, one thing I want to add, make sure that we add in, because it's something I know we're both well aware of, but for anybody who isn't in the audience, and I know a lot of our audience knows this too, but like going back to your hack squat, and you said, you know, I won't be able to progress on that workout in the next workout on Saturday or whatever it was. The idea that behind that is that the more frequently we can get that trigger for growth, the more that we can grow. So you could have done that and maybe you would have needed more time off, right? But would it have built any more muscle to have dug yourself further in the hole when you had already gotten the trigger? You'd already done the thing you needed to do. You know what I mean? I think it's just important that I just wanted to kind of like complete that loop, because that's what ultimately the reasoning was behind it, you know?
Absolutely. You've got to do only what's necessary, not just doing more for sake of doing more. I think we all get into a habit and almost like a trap of doing the extra work that just isn't necessary and it's not productive. So it's a great point, mate. Honestly, it really is. And the hardest part, though, Scott, for it all is just it's actually executing it.
What do you mean?
The hardest part is actually sticking to it.
Oh, yeah, like still not pushing it too far. But
Yeah.
like you said, maturity I think is a huge point there. You know, that if you can project out and hey, Saturday I'm going to be doing this again. I still want to be able to progress. I better pull it back here.
Another thing to note with frequency, right? And that's something that I think people forget is, if I was to tell you, Scott, you've got one set of hack to do on a Monday, one set of hack to do on a Thursday, how much more effort would you put into that single set on both Monday and Thursday, or just doing 2 to 3 working sets on one given day?
Yeah.
Do you see the point?
Yeah.
So more frequency, less volume per session isn't more effective because of getting more volume in. It's more effective because the quality of your volume increases because you are able to train with higher effort.
Absolutely.
Higher effort, guess what? More multi-unit recruitment, more breakdown of the tissue, more potential to grow. Simple as that. This is why I think higher training frequency is the key. And
I'm with you. I've seen it, especially for guys who haven't done it.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where I've also seen the opposite, where somebody's been training high frequency so much that they may get benefit from reducing it for a little while and then going back to it. I've seen my next step has been, and I guess this isn't even part of the conversation right now, but has been that, we can, how do I word it? That it's really based off what were you doing, to determine what's going to work next. Like Scott Stevenson's talked about that a lot of guys that went to HIIT back in Arnold's day started seeing massive progress. And his hypothesis on it was that everybody was doing these long Arnold workouts. So the question is like, well, what are you doing now? If you're doing a long Arnold workout, you're probably the guy who would benefit the most then to going to a higher frequency plan.
It's novel stimulus as well. I mean, it's something new. You're exposing yourself to almost like you're definitely exposing yourself to a different style of training. But I think a lot of times as well, it's like the guys that did the crazy high volume sessions and high volume workout with that crazy amount of time. Again, the longer your session is, the more work you do. Like, you cannot sustain that effort. You only have so much in the tank per session. And because they already had crazy resilience from training like this, when they scaled back, I can imagine the effort that they was able to put into each session was so much higher. So the growth was almost like newbie gains because effort was much higher, the quality of these sets was much higher, and they're probably trained with higher frequency as well. So it's like a double whammy where it's like everything probably exploded. And do you know what? It would be quite fun to see what happened back in the day with these guys as well. I wish some of them documented it. I know that Dorian kept a lot of like logbooks and stuff. And again, those guys that kind of dismiss a logbook, yes, Dorian used a logbook all his career. So yes, logbooking isn't something that's new. Like, Dorian did it. So come on.
Yeah. We had that Colorado experiment with who was that? Casey Viador did, but there was a lot of flaws to that. They documented him make this huge transformation using HIIT, but then when we looked at it, I think it was kind of fudged in a lot of ways. So
yeah, probably came there off cycle, got there, started a cycle, got some extra supplementation, extra food,
right.
And all of a sudden, he just blow up.
Yeah, a lot of things weren't accounted for in that. Yeah, Scott and I did a big deep dive into that one time.
I can imagine.
All right, so what else did we have here? When and how? Oh, we covered that. What about trade-off between both? What do you mean by that?
I think it was. I think that's going to be for the next show. Basically, what I talk about is. A lot of people talk about what the most optimal approach is, right? And I think the most optimal approach comes down to what someone can actually adhere to over time. and this applies both with nutrition, with training, with lifestyle. What might be the most optimal on paper may not necessarily be the most optimal for that person or even that person at that time. Because I have worked with so many clients that thrived in a certain environment and thrived from a certain method of doing things, a certain way of doing things, right? But psychology sometimes changes, and sometimes people require a different approach at that given time. So you have to be adaptive with the process. You have to be adaptive, not just with your coaching process, but understanding what each person needs in order to get the most out of them. And this is something you can do, guys, yourself without the need for a coach. And this is something that you've got to remind yourself of, is whatever it is you are doing right now, is it sustainable? Is it going to allow you to have long-term progression? And is it going to allow you to actually stick to that program over time? And this applies for drugs, nutrition, and training. So the most optimal approach on paper for you, Scott, for example, may not actually be probably the most optimal approach for progress, but for him individually, it probably is at that time. Because if I was to give him the plan that on paper is going to see the most progress, but it's a plan he cannot adhere to, and he potentially will just not be able to have as much comfort with his life, it's going to cause stress, guess what? Progress won't be made.
So, I have a guy who's making incredible progress training 3 days a week. And he's not a hard trainer either. But guess what? He's making awesome progress. He has overall low level of development, right?
Yep.
We got the body fat down. He can adhere to training 3 days a week. So it's basically just like pretty much like a push-pull legs type setup.
Yeah.
And it's been working fantastic for him. Like, I mean, he night and day difference. In fact, I'll ask him. We did a review of his physique and talked about him a while back on this show. I'll ask Andy if he'd be up for me putting his before and after pictures up, because it's incredible, man. He's like, now he looks like a guy that lifts. Wow. But if you look at the workout, it's a pretty like rudimentary workout. You wouldn't say like, oh, this is the best workout I've ever seen. Yep. But he's nailing it, man, and he's doing great with it.
Effort is the king. If you can design a structure for someone that he's not only going to follow it, but he's going to follow it with effort. And I mean more effort than he has applied himself with previously. Progress is inevitable. If someone is following a program that they don't necessarily thrive off, right? And they do not apply themselves with effort, it could be the best program in the world. It could be the best exercise selection, the best equipment, the best design ever. But guess what? If effort isn't there, progress will not be made. So ultimately what it comes down to is the most optimal approach for an individual is going to be the approach that is not only sustainable, but approach that allows someone to apply themselves with effort over time and focus. And then top that off with consistency, week to week. Consistency, that's where the magic happens. Because if you have a client that is committed 50% of the time, or even 60, 70, 80% of the time, they will make less progress to the client that's committed 95% of the time with less optimal approach.
Yeah.
So figure out a way, figure out a structure that's going to allow you to be adherent, consistent, with effort for that 95% of the time. You don't have to be 100%. Most people that shoot 100% end up at 80% because they just cannot hack it. I can be 100% because that's what I fucking like. Most people, it's not realistic for them because they have a life. This is my life. If this is not your life, guys, shoot for 90 to 95%. If you shoot for 100%, you're probably not going to be able to sustain your other life if you have another life. So just be mindful of that. I mean, the guys that operate 100%, like, they can do that because that's their entire being, which I am fortunate to be able to do so. So 95% over trying to do 100 is going to give you the most benefit. Remember that.
I like that. Hey, let's tackle some listener questions. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right. So we got one about SLU. Now I know you've experimented with SLU and SS31 and all the other numerical compounds out there.
Sir.
So he says, Think Big Bodybuilding Media, are you buying into the high level of SLU or sticking with the usual that you do? I'm sticking with the usual like last time. What's your thought on that one, Kuba?
Will high level work? Yes. Now, one thing you have to understand is this. Does a high level of androgen loads work? Right? Yes. But anything you do in excess comes at a cost. Nothing that you do is free of consequences, right?
Yeah.
If you go in to McDonald's, if you have 5 Big Macs, guess what? That will come in at a consequence. If you only have 1 Big Mac, that consequence will be far less than 5 Big Macs. You see what I'm trying to say?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't want to think about the consequences of 5 Big Macs either.
Guess what, guys? It's still a very new it's still very much a new compound. We still do not have enough anecdotal evidence, because I don't really give a shit what studies say. We still do not have enough evidence from us bros using it to see what it actually does. Some people, they do see vast improvements, but just like anything, guys, you take too much of something, it's going to be harmful. I mean, you can yourself through drinking excessive amounts of water.
Yeah.
And that's not me. Listen, that's actually true. You can yourself.
Oh, yeah.
So that's my point. Anything and everything in moderation. If a drug
I'm
works,
with you.
If a drug works, why would you take more of it? Doesn't really make any sense. For me personally, when it comes to SLU, even as low as 250 works tremendously well. And I think the maximum anyone should run is probably 1,000 mcgs daily, spread across doses. I think that's the maximum. And if you are running 1,000, you better make sure that your carbohydrate intake is high, because SLU is going to burn through carbs like hell. So you need to keep feeding it 100%. So what would be the smartest approach is take less and make sure, again, it's sustainable. Why would you take a huge dose that's probably going to cause more damage than good?
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. So just tread carefully, guys. We don't truly know the effects that it can actually have on mitochondria, especially after you've used it at high doses and what happens months or years later. So just be mindful of that. And if you are using these compounds, please make sure that your antioxidant intake is very, very high. So vitamin C, glutathione, PQQ, ubiquinol, all needs to be taken at a very decent dose. Also, SS31 is something I would probably recommend if you are using SLU at higher doses. And make sure you use reputable sources as well that actually have some lab testing behind it, because I think with peptides being more popular now, you're probably going to get a lot of people just selling garbage. So just be careful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Here's my thought, man. It kind of blows me away because we've had comments where people are like, "Oh, where are all the 500 microgram dose bros now with a guerrilla chemist using super high dosing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm right here, still right here. Love it, love it." In fact, I found that when using SS31, I can get basically the same effects with half the dose of SLU. Yeah. So my thought is that if I can get the benefits that I want with whatever the dose is, more power to me. And if I can get the same benefits with less, You know, I don't understand why you would want to then, multiply that by 50.
It's
It
also
doesn't make sense to me. Also, too, there is a quality thing. There's some good quality out there. And then talking to one of the people that I consult with on this, there's also like some stuff that like we don't really know what's in there, so I'd be just really careful with it. And I think honestly, like I love the guys that are, some of the guys that are experimenting with the high doses. I also think it's a publicity stunt.
Mark,
I'm going to be honest. I think it's a publicity stunt.
They're selling it. So they're going to say they're using crazy doses, so people buy it. Another thing to understand is SLU, in my opinion, is best leveraged and used when you are metabolically disadvantaged. So what this means, guys, is this. If you are deep in the off season trying to gain muscle, SLU is not going to help. SLU, if anything, will probably be counterproductive in a fashion because it will definitely inhibit your absorption of carbohydrates. So if you're looking to maximize that glycogen uptake and you are taking SLU deep into the off season and you are insulin sensitive and you are trying to grow, you're on cycle, etc., it will probably inhibit some of the processes when it comes to hypertrophy. So it's not a compound I would use year round. If you're trying to grow, SLU, 5-amino-MQ, is probably not a good thing because you will probably feel flatter. And let's face it, guys, why would you want to eat more to grow more? It's just like, I want to eat as little as possible and grow the most to create the biggest runway. So save SLU for when you need it. And in my opinion, it's best used in a holding phase or towards the very end of your push-up when your insulin sensitivity is shot and you need to regain it. So when I will reintroduce it, will be towards back end of my off season and into my health phase and then into my diet phase, varying the doses and then strategically moving it in and out as of when I need it. So because I have used it now myself and with clients, I've almost got like a blueprint and a strategy to use it in the most effective way without it impacting growth, but also we get all the benefits for it's needed and appropriate to use, and then we remove it, add it in strategically as of when it's required, not just something that you use constantly. It's not vitamin C, guys.
Yeah. All right. We had a nice comment. I've been basically copying Kuba's diet off of his Instagram and feeling great. I feel much less gut distress. So I just thought I'd share that with you because, you have a lot of people that are following along. You don't always see, everybody that you're influencing.
I appreciate that. At least there's someone that has something positive to say.
All right. How about this one? And I'm not sure exactly where he's going with this, but he says, in this year, I want to try a little of the other way of progressive overload on small muscle groups, because let's face it, you can only progress with small muscle parts for so long. There comes a point where we crush quality reps and then start bouncing because we put too much pressure on ourselves and we are racing to add weight. And that's why I want to give a try to high volume training with old school style, like just taking some weight and go close to failure with good forming quality. What do you pick up out of that?
What I'm picking up out of that is like what he's trying to do is trying to rush the progressive overload, and he's just not making progress. So what he now wants to do, he wants to try more volume with quality reps, and then he wants to see progression, which arguably, if you scale back on the shit reps that you're taking and trying to rush your progressive overload, you will make more. I absolutely agree. He's going to make more progress, but instead of doing more volume, why would you not just scale back on trying to progress your lifts too quickly? What is happening here clearly is someone's just being impatient. They're trying to get strong. They're trying to get strong instead of allowing the strength gains to happen as a product of adaptation. So what I mean by that is this, Scott. You come into the gym, you break down the muscle tissue, you go to sleep, you eat, hopefully the next time you come into the gym, right, that muscle has adapted. Therefore, if you have seen adaptation happen, you should be able to lift maybe a tiny bit more load or get an extra rep. That is how progression should happen. It should happen through process of adaptation. We should never aim to try and force progression because it's just not the case. And something you have to accept is this as well. The longer you do this, and once you're stuck at certain lifts over a period of time, you shouldn't see progression session to session. I don't think it's actually possible to see progress every single session. So ultimately, what I'm seeing here, Scott, is just lack of patience, which is something that we actually spoke about earlier. What my suggestion would be, if you want to do a little bit more volume and less intensity, absolutely go for it. But your approach should be the same across all of the sets that you do. You shouldn't try to rush your progression, especially smaller body parts. I mean, for bicep work, I kid you not, Scott, I will sometimes use the same weight for 8-9 weeks. And I will just climb it up 1 rep here and there, improve the range, 1 rep here and there.
Okay.
And I might add a kilo or a couple of pounds. I don't aim to try and progress by a big margin every single session. It's always very, very small progressions using very little plates. I mean, this really gets on my nerves. I mean, even on leg press, like I will use 2.5 kilo plates. I will use quarters. I will use them on big lifts. So if I am using 2.5 kilo on big lifts like this, why would you expect to have a big jump in progression on something like bicep or shoulder work? Smaller body parts will require even smaller progressions with weight. This is why very often, especially with my female clients, I have them use either a gym pin or these small little plates that you can add onto your weight stacks, because most of the time, general weight stacks on cables are too big. Like the jump from one stack to the next one is way too big. Even for me, it's too big. Never mind for a female. And legit, it is, Scott. Like I will often have a progression on a cable lateral, not by jumping up a plate. I will add a quarter or a kilo plate.
Yeah. That makes total sense, man, especially with machines like that with small body parts.
And another thing that I've noticed as well with my own training and with clients as well is whenever people try to rush that progression, whenever people try to take more weight than they can handle, that is when they start to fall out with the progressive overload and they're like, it's not working, logbook, I'm putting it away. And it's not that the logbook's not working. It's not that the progressive overload somehow isn't working anymore. It's just that they started to rush the progression. And they just got impatient. And that impatience leads to less progress.
That's a good reminder, man. And yeah, I can totally relate to that too. I think that we've all kind of felt that. I'm over it though at this point though, man. I want to use good quality reps, and I don't meet it with judgment if my progression isn't what I hoped it would be. I don't look like I'm a failure. I just look at what the situation is. Can I change this? Can I do better next time?
I hate going in the gym and not having a good session. So I had to learn how to control myself and just be patient, because patience now is what's allowing me to have amazing sessions every single time I'm in the gym. Even in prep, like I did not have a single bad session because my training volume was appropriate, but I also did not try to take progressions that wasn't there.
Yeah. Well, I hope that this translates to the audience today, because the stuff you're talking about is the accumulation of everything you've learned in bodybuilding to get where you're at now, where you're at your all-time best at this moment. And arguably 2 years ago, you were at your all-time best then. You know what I'm saying? Because we're always improving. But I'd say you're at a great point. Just looking at your progress alone tells me you're at a great point. So it's a lot, I think, to digest and truly understand for somebody who doesn't have as much experience. But I'm glad that we can have conversations like this with somebody like yourself, who you've dedicated your life to this. And this conversation is the culmination of all those years to get where you're at right now.
Absolutely, man. And look, anyone listening to this, you've got to remember, I didn't just wake up and I realized, oh, I need to be patient. It's taken me 10 years to get here. So guess what, guys? If you're listening to this right now and you cannot get with it, it's okay. I promise you, it's okay. It's going to take you time to get to that point where things just start to click. And for now, go in the gym, apply yourself, and I just want you to focus on being that 1% better every time you come into the gym. Don't try and aim to be perfect. Don't try and aim to be over analytical. Go in the gym and just aim to be that 1% better. And I promise you, if you can keep accumulating that extra 1% every week, every month, you are going to get to a point where not only your progress is exceptional, but your understanding of the process and what is required from you to keep the progression going is going to be exceptional. I promise you, because that's exactly what I did to get here. And I cannot explain to you how excited I am to actually get in the gym every single session, because the small little margins for progression that I'm taking, it feels great, but it just takes time to get to that place, guys. It really does.
Yeah. All right, man. Anything else you want to add today? I feel like we covered an awful lot.
I know. I think it's been quite intense, hasn't it? I'm sweating.
There's never an episode with Kuba that is not intense. You ask the audience. It's good, man. It's good.
It's been intense. Guys, I appreciate you listening. If anyone has any questions, let us know. Make sure you subscribe.
Yes, comment.
Make sure you comment. And if you want to comment below with your training splits, anything to do with your process, peptides, cycle, anything you need, anything you want me and Scott to review for you, anything you are stuck with, anything you need help with, especially the guys that are on the Patreon, we're here to help. And we're here to provide value always. We're not here to create drama. We're not here to be negative. We're here to be positive. I want you all to come to Think Big and have a positive, uplifting experience. And I hope you all have a fantastic day, whatever it is, guys, you are doing. Thank you for listening to us talking gibberish and talking shit. Hopefully we have provided a little bit of value to you all, and I hope you enjoyed it.
I got nothing else to say except for see you guys.
Think big.